Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Book Fest. I am your host today, Jennifer Ann Gordon, the author of Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, Pretty Ugly, as well as The Japanese Box and Other Stories. Joining us today is not only one of my very favorite writers in the world, he is also one of my favorite people. It is Mr. Josh Malerman. You know him as the author of Bird Box and every other book that scares you. His soon-to-be-released Incidents Around the House. We'll be talking a little bit about this today, but no spoilers allowed. Josh, welcome.
Hi. I'm a little nervous, and I'll tell you why. I'm naturally a little nervous.
I was like, that's my personality.
It's my natural state. Is because this is only the second time that I've ever talked about Incidents Around the House, and so I don't have.
You don't have the
I don't have the language yet. Yeah, you're right. But maybe that's good. And maybe, hopefully, like years from now or something, I would look back at this and be like, oh, that's before you started knowing what you were going to say. And while I love talking about Bird Box and I love the book, I do end up saying the same thing about it because it's how I feel about it. So then that you say the same thing. It's not that you're going, because you're like,
it's not a script.
Right. It's not a script. Yeah. But it is how you feel, and you've worded it a certain way, and you found the right way to describe it. I don't know I don't know the language of Incidents Around the House.
So you don't even. I know sometimes, like when I'm talking about my books that I haven't talked about very much, and like an interviewer will ask me a question, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
Like I've never thought about my work like that.
Yes.
So I love that this is going to be one of your first conversations. You know how much I love this book. I've read it twice.
Hi, thank you.
Already. You. And it doesn't come out until June.
June 25th.
Correct. Okay.
June the 25th.
So tell us a little bit. Tell us what you think Incidents Around the House is about.
Well, I'll tell you an exciting thing every time I look at the book is I was on the phone with a friend of mine, James Hall, and I was working on the book. And he's like, so what is it? What's it about? And at the time I was about halfway into it. And I was like, it's about, this and this. And then I was like, it's a bit of a series of incidents around the house. And then I was like, oh, that's it. That's the title.
That's the title.
And he was like, yeah, no, that's good. And I was like, no, that's it. It's called Incidents Around the House.
I love it.
And then I just started the conversation over as if that's what it's always been. But so Incidents Around the House is about, and really what it is about is it's narrated by a child named Bella. And that element of it is
amazing.
Well, thank you. That element of it was thrilling to write because I like, and it's not like an intentional thing, but I like when the book I'm writing isn't like the book I just wrote. And so to immediately have a voice that I've never had before, to have this girl I've never had before, and her mommy and her daddo, that's what she calls her dad. Immediately I felt like, oh, this is new to me. This is all new. And from the word go. But then I started to see in rewrites of this that the language was too much for like an 8-year-old.
Right.
Yeah, I had to like scale stuff back. The smallest example would be like, mommy sits beside me upon the couch. I'm like, no. Mommy doesn't sit beside me upon the couch. You know what I mean? Mommy's next to me.
Mommy's next to me.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that because I remember years ago, in my book, Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, there's a very little boy. And I had written a scene where the little boy had dialogue. And then one of my beta readers who actually did have children read it. And he was like, that's not how like a 3.5-year-old would say that. And I was like, Yeah. So I didn't know how much you had to like fight your instincts to make Bella like strangely mature. And she is kind of strangely mature for her age.
Yeah.
But she's not an adult.
I think that the way for me that I got how do you say this? I got my kicks in or whatever, is by the moments where Daddo and Mommy sort of give monologues to her, whether it's Daddo telling her what like kindness is or Mommy's big speech.
Mommy's big speech near the end. When I got to Mommy's big speech, which again, no spoilers, I was just like, oh, the theater person inside me went crazy. I'm like, what an amazing audition piece this would be.
Oh, that would be freaking awesome. That would be awesome.
But you know, like all of your books, I'm just like, Josh, can I play so and so in a?
That would be, maybe we could somehow do something with that. I love this idea. I love that you would want to do that. Okay, we'll talk more about that.
I know, like all of a sudden
But
the interview goes off the rails.
yeah,
We're just
now we're
talking
like
about
mapping
this.
out the reading,
Yeah.
which, as you know, the book release parties are typically theatrical events. So
Yes.
Inspection was at the chapel at the Masonic Temple. Unburied Carol, oh, that was great. Unburied Carol, I played the drums on it like a typewriter. So I'm like, while they're like playing acoustic guitars and singing about Carol and stuff. Goblin, Allison dressed up as Walter Camp and had a transparent plexiglass.
I saw
bed.
the photos of that, and I was just like, that is not your beautiful fiance, Allison.
Yeah, no, it's wild. The craziest thing real fast about that was that Allison can sometimes live in like the nick of time. And me and Christy are already standing at the microphones ready to narrate. Allison's not there yet. The plexiglass bed is there. We're like about to start. And I see through this one doorway, I see Walter Camp walk by in like her in the full outfit. And I was like, oh, she's here. And I was like, that's the first time I saw the outfit. And I got like the chills because I wrote him.
Yeah. And then she made him.
Right.
Like,
and then all of a sudden he's walking around this venue. So anyway, the question then becomes with incidents around the house. I don't know exactly how this is going to be done yet, but I think I would love to somehow get 50 to 100 people in a house-like setting, to make them horribly uncomfortable. Maybe they each have to go through the house alone before arriving.
And the closet is just open just enough.
Yeah, you have to go upstairs,
and sit in that room.
So imagine this. Imagine you enter the house. Okay, so this is the book event that we're talking about, the potential book event release night. You walk into the house. You have to go alone. You walk in, and at the table is like Grandma Ruth and Daddo discussing, other mommy. Right?
Oh my God.
And then you alone have to go upstairs. Oh no, they're talking about that other mommy's upstairs. And then you alone have to go up there. That would be
amazing. I'm flying out. I'm going. I'll be crying because other mommy is honestly now my scariest creation. I am more scared of other mommy than I am of Daphne, of the monsters in Bird Box.
Awesome.
Oh yeah. So thanks for that. Now I'm very emotionally scarred. And because I'm also a Leo, that I have to make everything about myself. So incidents around the house. My grandmother is actually Grandma Ruth.
Oh, mine too. Wow, that's crazy. Wow.
I know. I was just like, Grandma Ruth. Oh my God, I could be this little girl.
Yeah, that's crazy. Every now and then you'll know this for sure. When you're writing, you're like, it's screw it. I'm just going to use my real aunt's, like a real aunt's name. Oh, yeah. Why not? You know what I mean? You screw it. Grandma Ruth. And then it almost gives you, as the writer, the warmth for Grandma Ruth, because that's your grandma's actual name. Exactly. So you portray her with that depth and warmth that you would your actual grandma or something.
Oh, I love that. I know. And I feel like as writers, the hardest part of our job is just like, okay, who is this character's name? Like, there's so many names. I'm like, and I'm such a child of the 80s that the only names I can think of are like the names that everybody was named when I was a kid. So like, I can only name people like Amy, Heather, a Jennifer, a Jessica. I'm like,
okay, there are. Yeah, no, I have a million.
There's
like
5
that.
names.
I have a million. I have a million like that too. Jenny. But I wanted to name. So you just by the way, so the listeners know, I am currently reading Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent. I'm halfway through. This is Jennifer's book. It is so good. And that reminds me of a thing that you did where he's like, it's Anthony, it's not Tony, never Tony. He doesn't just say it's not Tony. He's like, it's never Tony.
Never.
and you're like, oh, if that isn't like a lot of character in 2 words. Yeah. Never Tony.
Because everybody's met that person where it's like, no, never that. And that reminds me of the other day when I thought you were in Central Time and you said you would rather be dead than be in Central Time. And I was like, that says, I don't know what that says about you, but it says so much. It was such a dramatic thing. I'm like, oh, awesome.
Like Central Time. No.
That doesn't even exist to me. Everyone in Central Time who's watching this in April, where we are in time and space in April, they're all just really upset at you now, Josh. They're like, what does he have against Central Time?
They probably agree. They're probably like, man, I do wish we were on Eastern Time. or it's like Central's so non-committal, you know? It's not even an hour back. Like Mountain Time, you're in the mountains. Pacific, okay, 3 hours. We're living two different worlds. Central, no. It's not fair to those people.
No, it's not fair to like the poor people who live in Indianapolis.
No, it's not exactly. It's not fair to Indianapolis. So I wanted to say, and another factor, and it's funny, I haven't really even described the book yet, but another factor that heavily went into Incidents Around the House was, for the first time, I decided to write without any music playing.
What?
So typically there is horror movie soundtracks, or the book I'm writing right now is all vaudeville songs, and I always have music playing. At some point in this book, I was like, dude, you should write to the silence of the house. And it set this mood where like it was nighttime, it's dark in here, the house was silent. You know, if you hear an animal moving around, you hear the creaking of the house and the cat down the hall. And it was like, oh yeah, no, this is the soundtrack for this book. Yeah. Because I think that early on, right away, I felt like a cold wind blowing through the book that I never wanted to snuff out. I never wanted to put a blanket around Dado. I never wanted to warm up the characters. I wanted that cold wind to be there the whole book. And part of that to me was, all right, and get rid of the music.
Silence. Yeah. And you know, you're so in Bella's head. And if you think about kids, I mean, not all kids like know music. What would she be listening to? Taylor Swift? Did you want to listen to Taylor Swift while writing a horror novel?
Right.
Probably. I mean, that would be
that would be interesting. Something like that would be
actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down.
The closest I've ever come to that is, and it is kind of close because it's songs, is The Grateful Dead. Because when I was writing novels on the road in the band, I can't like be writing in the van and tell them what to listen to. I mean, like, I'm like owning the whole trip.
Such a diva.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Oh gosh.
Gentlemen, could you put Goblin on for me? Thank you. Can you put on the Creep Show soundtrack? You know.
Yeah. While I just sit here and pen a book, and nobody talk to me, but
nobody. Hey, Derek.
Nobody make any noise.
Don't hit the brakes too hard, Chad. And then, but no. So they would be listening to like noodly. I love the Grateful Dead, but listening to the Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia singing. And at some point, I'm like, okay, dude, if you can make the scene scary while Jerry Garcia is playing and singing, then you have really done something. you have really pulled something off.
This makes me want to reread some of your work and try to find like the rhythm, that Jerry Garcia rhythm somewhere tucked into Bird Box.
Oh, it's definitely in Ghoul in the Cape.
Yeah. I feel like that makes sense. So I have not read Ghoul in the Cape. I have it, but every time I pick it up, I'm like, whoa, it's a commitment.
Oh yeah.
And it's also, I feel like my bones are so brittle and weak that I can't physically hold it.
No, so I know. I know. You would need like one of those like podiums that people have like rare books on.
Yeah. And I would stand and just read it aloud for an hour a day. So my husband would love that. He loves it when I read aloud to him.
For real?
Yeah, he really does.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Allison and I have done that too. In fact, I'm glad you said that because we haven't done that in a minute. Where I read The Witching Hour, Anne Rice's like 1,100-page book. I read that to her, where she listens to audiobooks all the time. I think I've probably read like a dozen to her through the years.
I love that.
I know, it's awesome. It's like when you have like a show that you watch together. So you're like, okay, let's read The Witching Hour. Let's do that.
Yes.
And she's like painting and I'm sitting next to her reading. It's like literally like you can't beat that.
Yeah. The first book we read aloud to each other, and then it turned into like just mainly me reading it because for whatever reason I decided to do it in a British accent, even though it had nothing to do. It wasn't set in England. It was We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson.
Wow. Yeah.
And I did that as a British person. I don't know why. And then when my husband reread it, he's like, "This does not take place in England. Why were you doing that voice?" And I had no reason to do it. I was like, I don't know.
Well, I read Interview with the Vampire to Allison, and there's a few words that I didn't realize I've said wrong, like goatee. And instead of saying, I don't even know how to say it, because she would be talking about I don't even know how to say it, curlicue, like architecture, and I'd say like curlicue, and then Allison's like, "What's curlicue?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Isn't that how you say it, curlicue?" She's like, "No."
It's like, no, quiet time, honey. Just shh.
But I'm reading like writer. I'm in the middle of a sentence. I'm so serious, and then she's like, "Wait, hold on."
That's not how to say that. All right. Okay, we've gone haywire. Okay, incidents around the house.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, you're doing a great job talking about it, Josh.
So Bella, 8 years old, narrates. The story is essentially she obviously lives with Daddo and Mommy, and Grandma Ruth plays a major part. But the main other character is Other Mommy. And Other Mommy
is the worst thing in the world.
Lives in Bella's closet, essentially, or somewhere in that bedroom. And it seems like very often, almost every day, she will come out and ask Bella if she can go into Bella's heart. Can I go into your heart? And Bella, the book is essentially Bella trying to make sense of this question and deciding whether or not to answer yes or no, or whether to answer yes or no. And the longer that Other Mommy has to wait, the angrier she's getting, and the more desperate she's getting, and the more possibly creative she's getting. And it's a little hard for me to know what's a spoiler and what's not, right? Because I guess I'll just say one thing that I think is a major factor in this book. And if this is a spoiler, I guess tell me, and now I know, is that the parents also see Other Mommy. And the reason
that's not a spoiler.
That's not a spoiler. Okay. And the reason I say that is because, we've all read books where like the parents don't believe, and that can be fun too, blah, blah, blah. But I wanted this book to hinge at least half upon how scared the parents are.
Yeah. Yeah. That is what sets it firmly in reality. I mean, because we believe Bella. Of course, we believe Bella. We're in her head. But I was so thankful, honestly, that you had the parents see Other Mommy, because I still have this like lingering thing from childhood when on Sesame Street, nobody saw Mr. Snuffleupagus at first except for Big Bird. And that like it would give me anxiety as a kid because nobody would believe Big Bird at first.
This is weird because I grew up with a Snuffleupagus doll, and like that was my stuffed animal.
That was your
I even called him Snuffy. Like I grew up with Snuffy. So no, but it's weird that you brought up Snuffleupagus in a discussion about incidents around the house, narrated by a child, which is the age I was when I had Snuffy.
I just got chills.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. When you said it, I was like, oh, geez.
You're like, uh-oh. We synced up there. It's like a weird mind meld. It's the bond of Grandma Ruth. Oh, Grandma. Your signs are everywhere.
And another thing is that incidents around the house doesn't necessarily mean one house. I want the listeners to know that, because that was exciting for me too. Is that incidents around the house? Maybe they do try to get away from it, and maybe there's an incident in another house and another house. So think of it, don't think of it as contained to this one house this whole time.
Yeah, it's definitely not it's a haunted house story, but it's a haunted family story. It's a haunted little girl story. So yeah, you can't hide from Other Mommy.
Ooh, man.
Gosh. Did she scare you, like when you were writing it and you could hear like the creaks of like your dogs or your cats doing whatever in the house? Did you think that you had somehow manifested an Other Mommy and that she was actually in your house?
Yeah, there was legit, like, it sounds like a thing to say. I think that if someone, maybe to a non-writer, they'd be like, oh, how do you scare yourself? You know what's coming, or you're making it up, right? Yeah. But just now imagine yourself sitting in a dark office. The rest of the house is still and silent. The creaks, the wind outside barely. And you're just nonstop thinking of an entity that would do these things, and that would slide across its belly towards you out of the closet. And you start like thinking, and you're sitting there in the dark, like alone, thinking about this. Yeah, you can freak yourself out. And there was numerous times where I would get up and I would sort of quickly and quietly sort of like over to where Allison was And I'd be like, hey. And then she would be like, hey, what's up? And I'd be like, I just wanted to see what you're doing,
Yeah.
And I know that she knew, she's like, okay, are you freaked out right now?
Are you scared? Josh, are you scared, Josh? So where I write in my house is I live in like a weird haunted house, and there's a tower, and I write way up in the tower. But
that's so cool.
But it gets so quiet up there. And so in that tower room is kind of based on, I based the attic room in that short story I wrote, The Attic, that you, with the mannequin. So like, that's my space. Like that door is behind me. And there are times that I have to just go downstairs, hug my dog, sometimes bring the dog back up. Like, a ghost won't come and bother me if the dog is here.
Pets are so good for that. Like, I'm like, Valo, come here. Because if something's in here, you'll know.
You'll know. Yeah.
Yeah. But the time that freaked me out the most was I like went out into the driveway at night, and I was like pretty far, like near the end of the driveway. And for some reason, it felt like the walk from the end of the driveway back to the house, there was a chance of other mommy or something like that, reaching me before I got back to the house. And it was this freaked out moment I had. I had a similar moment when I saw It Follows.
Oh, gosh.
And afterwards I go outside and I'm standing on the sidewalk, and you kind of look up the sidewalk, the distance, and you almost can imagine someone walking slowly towards you or whatever.
Oh, and there's nothing more terrifying than somebody just deliberately and slowly walking.
Yeah, I know.
No,
I totally agree.
Thank you. I'm like, it is much more menacing than if I was being chased like full speed. Like if somebody was running at me, I'd probably just fall down and it would be over. But somebody stalking me slowly.
I think the reason is because if someone was running at me, I have like no choice. Like, okay, I'm going to react right now.
Yeah.
Like I know, all right, let's go. But if they're just walking towards me, it's like I have all this time to sort of wait, how much time do I have? Right. If I go inside and ignore this, they're just going to get closer. If I go try something else, they're just going to keep walking. Eventually, I need to address this thing that's slowly approaching versus the immediacy of like something's running at me. All right, let's do it.
Very clearly, this is about social anxiety. Like as we're saying it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to talk to this person who's walking at me. What if I have to have a conversation with them? What if they're just outside my door forever if I don't open it?
Did you write your first Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent? Did you write it in that tower?
No, I was still living, we were living someplace else. So I was living someplace else, but I was still in New Hampshire. But I have this thing where, and I don't know if you're like this too, I get like superstitious about how and where I write. So if I start writing a book, like I started writing Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent sitting in my bed at a certain hour. And then I had to write at that time and in that situation every day. So certain things are created in the tower, certain things are created in other parts of the house. And then I have to, and I try not to mix them.
No, I am the same exact way. There's no overarching routine, meaning in a career way, but.
Right. You're not like I'm a morning pages.
Right. Exactly.
What's morning pages?
Right. I'm like, what is that even? But it's like,
why would you write in the morning?
In and of each book, in and of themselves, it does follow a pattern. Bird Box was 8 a.m. till noon every day. That was morning pages.
Morning pages.
And didn't drink at all during that. Like, was not one night of drinking during that whole period.
Not one. I was like, oh, well, I hope you're not drinking 8 a.m. to noon.
The night I finished, or the day I finished, we threw a party, and so that was that. But okay, what's it called? Incidents, I think was like 9 at night till 1 a.m., something like that. It's like typically a 3 or 4 hour session, but it would then be every day at 9, that kind of thing. And once the rough draft starts, I try to write every day till it's done. And then it's okay if, a couple of weeks pass and then you start rewriting or you work on something else or blah, blah, blah. But that is like the routine. So, okay, Incidents was a night book and it was from like 9 to 1 a.m. and it was every single day till it was done.
Wow. Now, how long does work live in your head before it comes out? Like, because you're so prolific, you are always writing and you produce a lot of work. But I remember one of the very first times we had a conversation, you were on my podcast, you were talking about incidents around the house. like it wasn't called that. You just said, you asked us, you were like, is it possible to write an entire book in child's voice?
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, what is going on in his head? And then obviously that was like years ago now.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden incidents around the house became a real thing, I'm like,
yeah, I remember. And then behind this computer on the wall is the outline for this book. So a few of the books have been outlined on the walls of the office. And the very first thing it says on the wall is, so obviously the age changed, but can a 5-year, I can barely, it's so far away. Can a 5-year-old narrate an entire novel without him or her being unreliable? See, that was key. Yeah. It's like, I don't want her to be unreliable because she's a kid. I want what she's saying to be like, this is real. Mm-hmm. Can you pull it off, or you tell a whole book where we're not questioning her. And I think that again, the parents, let's have the parents see it also. So now there's no question that what Bella's saying is real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's literally and I remember asking you, that was probably 4 years ago or something.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. It was like 3 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. And I just remember being so like, because I love child's voice, and I'll do like a lot of like essays and short work in child's voice. But I was just like so in awe that you were, going to take that swan dive and do an entire book in child's voice.
Oh man.
And a little girl too. And so good job.
Thanks.
I felt like Bella, and I don't know if I felt like Bella so much because, and again, this isn't really a spoiler, but grown-ups, mommy and daddo, they have a relationship that is theirs, that is not what she thinks it is. Parents are never perfect, and these parents definitely are not. So you also had that great element to this story where it's like this unconnected family at times. Like they love their daughter, but there is a disconnect. I love the scenes with the parties. Like it reminded me of being a kid and seeing my parents through, my child's eyes. They're drinking and smoking and having conversations that I don't understand. And they're like, oh, like trot me out and do a little dance, literally. Like, hello.
Yeah.
It made me scared that I had somehow let an other mommy into my heart without knowing. I got this. Like, oh yeah. I was just like, what if that happened to me when I was a kid and I let another mommy in? Well,
it's like, isn't it a horrifying idea? Like the parents are like, oh, she's fine. She's in her room. And then, you know what I mean? Like we can have like a party, whatever. I mean, Bella obviously hangs at the party, but it's like, you could be like, oh yeah, she's fine. She's with Calvin, or she's upstairs in her room. And no, you should be much better off drinking and smoking with you at the party than she would be in her room.
I know, having a quiet whisper conversation with other mommy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, other mommy, really? Like, ooh, man. I have a closet. There's a closet on the other side of the computer as well that I just opened the doors. I was just like, okay, no, I can't have this. Like, keep looking over here. No, fuck away. Yeah, it was intense. I remember feeling with Bird Box a similar, like, engine behind it. Similar, like, anytime that I was writing it, I felt like, how do you explain this? That I was in the mood of the book, like not just writing and we'll massage it later. It was like you'd sit down and like right away you're in it. You're in the voice like right away.
Yeah.
So that way, Incidents and Bird Box, and I would say Carpenter's Farm was like that. Goblin was like that. But sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes it's like you got a big idea or whatever it is, and you kind of you just write the rough draft, kind of hoping.
Hoping it turns into a book.
Yeah, it's like kind of hoping that it's within range of a unified voice or something.
Yeah.
And then you read the rewrite and you're like, oh shit. Okay, but I can fix this. But Incidents was a smooth rough draft. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Well, the rough draft is always that's my favorite. And then I think my third draft is my next favorite. The second draft is the worst.
It's the worst. Yeah.
Because that's when you really are thinking, oh, people are going to find out that I'm stupid. Like, oh, this doesn't even make sense.
That thing that you wrote me was so funny when you were like, sometimes when you're writing, you're like, huh, can a horror novel win the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, I think it's going to. I've like really had those thoughts. And I'm like, this is going to unify the world. People, like somehow my book, Pretty Ugly, is going to make the universe go like, we should be nicer to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the next second you're like, oh my God, we got to trash it all.
I know.
I've been going through that with this new one that I'm writing. I walk into the kitchen. I'm like, Allison, I think this is the best book I've ever written. Yep. I've ever done. And then the next day I'm like, this is a slippery draft, man. It's real. It's like one of those little toys that slips right out of your fingers and you can't get a grip on it.
Yeah. I have a book that's out on Sub. And my husband always like laughs, my husband Roman, because he's like, do you remember you kept coming out of the room going, I just wrote the best thing I've ever written in my life. And then literally the next day saying, my agent's going to hate it. She's going to drop me. She's going to,
I know. It's a
terrible.
I think that, and I'm going to guess that a lot of listeners are writers as well. I think how the thing that gets me through all that is the thought, like, what's the right phrase? Like if you tell yourself this is going to be hard, that's what it means by this is going to be hard. There's going to be moments. It doesn't mean that you're going to be feeling like mental strain. Yeah, that's part of it. Or you're going to be like exhausted and not have much time. Yeah, that's part of it. No. The hard part is that you're literally going to be like, oh, I should stop. This is terrible.
Yeah.
And if you prep yourself, if you say if the band says to each other before they go on the road, we're likely going to get on each other's nerves. So when we do, don't let it rule you. I'm going to bother you. Don't let it rule you. Let's get through those moments and get to the next show. Same thing with this. Don't let it, and it's funny because it is funny to go from such highs and lows. But what I would argue as an optimist is touching those highs means something. When you come out and say to Roman, I'm working on the best thing ever, that means that you are doing it. You are touching that upper echelon of your own like abilities and work and all that. And that's like a really good sign.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to remind myself of that next time I hit those low ones when it's just like, oh, what is this even doing? Yeah. No, I love it.
I mean, yeah, it's freaky.
I know. It's like, what's wrong with us? Why do we do this?
Yeah.
So obviously, you were a musician first, but you've always been writing novels. What did you think when you were in high school? Like, what did you think your life was going to be? Did you think you were going to be a musician? Did you think you were going to do, because you are like a truly creative person. You do all of it.
So in high school, I was writing, I think I told you this before, like the worst emo poems imaginable. And I was trying to write short stories and they were all trying to be scary, but they were trying to be so scary. It would end with like, it was her, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And like, it was very like, dun, 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 but I like, I still have all of this in a box in my closet, by the way.
What?
Oh yeah. I've kept every single thing.
I'm flying to Detroit. We're getting a bottle of whiskey and we're going to dramatically read from the Josh Malerman box of doom.
No, I'm turning red right now.
Like, you think Other Mommy's the scariest thing living in the closet? No, it's that box of emo poems.
Yes.
What's scarier than Other Mommy?
But I was also captain of the track and cross country team. I got like a 3.7. I was like very like, I'm going to school and my dad's an accountant and I will one day. I didn't realize that what I was writing and all that. I had no idea that this was going to be. It's like I played in this basketball league and this like travel league. It was so fun. We would travel to like Pittsburgh and Dayton, Ohio, and other places. And
Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah. And then I came home from this one tournament, and in high school, like a 3-page paper was kind of a lot to write. You'd be like, oh God, can I triple space? Yeah. And then I don't know what it was. I got home from this tournament and I wrote like a God, I think it was like a 50-page account of this tournament. I went into the den at this computer of my dad and I was just like, and then I printed out copies for everyone on the team and the coaches. And the next day I brought them, hey, I wrote this about that thing, And at one point, the high school coach came up to me. He's like, "Hey, Josh, I read that thing that you wrote, about the tournament you went on. And I'm like, whoa, this was like the high school coach. I was in this weird other travel league. And I was like, you what? He like approached me and he's like, that was like really amazing. You should like, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Like maybe this, oh, right. Like, yeah, I didn't even think anything of it. So in high school, no sense of any of that. I had, and we do not have time for this, but I had the moment in Daphne where she called 911 on herself when she had that moment of, I can do anything with my life. And the total mental breakdown. And she's like, oh my God. And she called 911. What's your emergency, ma'am? I realized I can do anything I want with my life. That sounds wonderful, ma'am. No, I'm horrified. No. Send help. Send help now. That really happened. They showed up at the house. Well, that's a whole hour story. That was the moment.
That's years of therapy.
that was the moment. I was 19 then, and it literally was like this kaleidoscope of options, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna start writing novels. So that was it. Was like at age 19.
Oh my God, I love that so much. And you went into it like you were just like writing novels, not thinking of like the business of like, I'm gonna get published. This is gonna be my job. You were just like writing stories out of like the sheer love of stories.
Yeah. I spent, so between 19 and 29, I failed at writing a novel. And all I mean by that is I didn't finish one. If I would have finished, oh my God, I have 300 pages of one of them in this crate right here. All I had to do was put the end, and if someone had ended prematurely, but you had a book done, and I couldn't finish one. At age 29, I finally finished one. And from there, it's been like 2 a year since then. So just this explosion since then, but never thought, I think I had something like 14 written by the time Bird Box came out. I hadn't shopped any of them at all. I will say this though, to a listener, because that does sound like crazy. Like, how could you write that much and never like reach out to agents or this kind of thing? But the band was touring by then.
Yeah.
And we're only playing for like 20 people a night, but I would get my, what's it called? Immediate gratification, whatever that's called.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I would get it like instant gratification. I would get it like that night playing songs in Seattle or whatever. And the next day I'd be like writing, and then in Boise, and then I'd be writing, and then in blah, blah, blah. So there was a sense of interacting with crowds and getting your art out there while that stack of rough drafts kept getting higher and higher.
Yeah, no, I that makes sense because for years, I mean, I was a stage performer, dancer, dance teacher, performer. Then, COVID happened, the world shut down, blah, blah, blah. And then like I had already written Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent, and it came out then. But yeah, my like idea of who I am as an artist kind of changed because I couldn't necessarily I wasn't just a performer anymore. It was like,
yeah.
But writing is scarier, I think, to me, because it's really like your soul. You're putting your soul out there.
Yeah, there's
in a way that
no cinematography to hide behind. No, you didn't write it. You're just performing it. No great drummer. No vocal effect. No, it's just you. Just you. And the only thing I can equate it to is like a stand-up comedian or something.
Which is like the scariest thing in the world to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it literally is that. It's like that makes sense to me. I'm like, right, that person's totally alone. And you could argue, I mean, you and I agree that the stand-up is like the ultimate.
It's the ultimate art form.
It really is. It's the ultimate art form. But you could also argue that there's 300 pages, or I mean, like I'm reading your book, like I'm learning more about even just you, whether you even like realize it, like because you and I could be given the same exact plot points, character names, everything, and we're just going to describe it differently. Mm-hmm. And so that's the book is so naked. Yeah. I mean, this book, but every book is every book.
That's how I felt when I was reading your book, Daphne. I felt like I was really reading the parts of you that you're like, I wish I didn't have anxiety. I wish I didn't like. So Daphne to me was just, I felt like I really got to know you reading that book.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was, I felt that way writing it. But I'll tell you what, though, I saw a review recently. I think it might have been for Incidents or it was for Spin a Black Yarn, which is the book that came out before this one for listeners. But they wrote, I think that Josh Malerman's he's revealing more of himself as each book goes along. And I was like, that was really nice of me to read that. I was like, oh, does it seem like that? Oh, that's good. I'm glad that she thought this. And like, because I was like, okay, because I've always felt that one of the drawbacks or the things that hold a first-time writer back is trying to express yourself in full in your first book. Yeah. Like everything about me has to be in this book. No, it doesn't. If you think of it instead in terms of your body of work, what you do in your entire life, your canon, that if you say, if I can represent myself through the course of a career, now each book could be about certain couple facets of yourself rather than all of you. So and I cherish that idea. So for her to have written that, I was like, this is working, but you're doing that. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you are doing it, and it is working. I mean, it's just, and you and I could talk forever about the idea of the body of work.
Yeah.
And because do you consider still, like, obviously the body of work is your writing, but you also are a songwriter, you're a movie producer. Is all of it the body of work?
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not like, no, I mean, yeah, but definitely the songs, this documentary that I filmed recently.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the documentary.
I was like that. Documentary. That's definitely all of a piece. In fact, I would love. That'd be an awesome thing if they could all be in one place one day, and you walk through a door that says "of a piece," and it's like all the songs are there and all the books are there, and here's this weird movies he made, and that'd be awesome.
It could happen.
Yeah. Now, Of a Piece sounds like a good album.
I was just thinking that is a great title.
Yeah.
Of a Piece. Yeah, it's definitely not a book title. It is an album title where a bunch of unsmiling bandmates are like somehow near like a dumpster in an alley.
Hey, stop. I think
it's a vibe.
No, I think we have an exact photo like that. I can't believe
I know my husband and I have a photo like that we took ages ago in the Midwest, and he was like, oh this is our band photo. Because for like a hot minute we were like, let's have a band and we're going to be called Vague Funeral Radiation. Wow, that's amazing. I know, great title, great band name. And we took like photos by a dumpster, and we were just like, we're so cool. By a dumpster. Yeah. I'm gonna find that photo and send it to you. It's like, or like a weird like restaurant marquee thing, yes. Like buffet all day, and there's the band. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I don't think it was fair to laugh this much during the interview. Like, let's be professional, and it's just you and I cackling at each other. There's no way. God, we should be able to go twice as long as this, but that's okay. I know. No, we could. I mean, we definitely could. But we'll have to save something for the stand-up tour. Has to happen. Well, think about it. Think about this real fast. We've already talked for like 43 minutes. And I know. I'm not wearing my glasses. Thank you for putting your glasses on, because I'm like, I have no idea how do we like a stand-up thing's only like 5 minutes? Like is that what we got to worry about here? We can do this. We can do it. Yeah, we can do it. We can do it. Yeah. I talked to like a stand-up comedian who I was like, can you coach me? Can you and he was just like, okay, what you need to start with is you have to get a tight 5 is what they call it, and then a tight 10. And I'm like, what if I talk for 2 hours? Yeah. I almost would rather have a panic attack in the middle. Right. Let me just tell like an hour-long story. I think that's just like, how about that? Oh boy, Valo, hi. Valo just open the door on her own. Here, pop up. I love it. Come here, buddy. Valo. Hey, buddy. Okay. Come up here, though. I guess that's Valo saying, that's our Oscar music playing us off. Yeah. I think. Oh my gosh. Valo. Valo. You did it, buddy. Thank you. So that's awesome. So Josh, we could talk forever. We probably will keep talking after this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of Book Fest. This was amazing. Everybody, Incidents Around the House comes out June 25th. And so pre-order it as soon as you can. I tried to match my lipstick to the cover today. And everybody, I am reading Jennifer's book, Beautiful, Frightening, and Silent. I'm telling you, it is phenomenal. I've been walking up to Allison. I'm halfway through exactly, by the way. And I would walk up to Allison, I'm like, you got to read this one. It's so great.
Absolutely love it.
Oh
Read
my
that
God.
as well.
Yeah, you're so sweet. And a friend of mine saw that you were reading my book and she was like, "Oh my God, that's cool that Josh is reading your book." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he like messages me about it.
Yeah, I'm like live
Incident-
tweeting you.
I know. I think I was doing that with incidents around the house with you too. I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, everybody, I'm gonna die. I'm so scared." So thank you for reading my book. Thank you for being here, and thank you to everybody at BookFest.
Thank you, BookFest,
for allowing Josh and I to have way more fun than we probably should have during a interview. And Valo's here.
Well, hop up here. Let them see you. There you go. There you go. Look right here, Valo. Look, yeah, there you go. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, perfect ending.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.